Hi there, everyone. How are you? How are you? I've gotten some really, really great feedback about my forgiveness radio show and the forgiveness Facebook Live we did the other day. And I promised I would share some other things from the research that I had done. So I am Dr. Nikki Tobias from Grounded Vision Coaching Consulting. So thanks for jumping on or for watching. Thanks for listening to the radio show. Thanks for watching the last forgiveness video. And so we talked about the two books that I had really researched, read from cover to cover in preparation for my radio show. And one of them was by Enright and North called Exploring Forgiveness. And they talk in there about 3 levels of forgiveness. And so I wanted to share those here. But I want to remind everybody, in case you didn't listen to the radio show or you didn't watch the last Facebook Live, that I talked about the definitions of forgiveness. That's probably a good reminder for all of us. So first of all, it is a verb, right? Forgiveness is an action. It's an action. And so that means it takes an awful lot of effort. And so forgiveness means to pardon an offense or an offender, to cease to feel resentment against, to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake, or to cancel a debt. Okay, so we know that this takes action. We know that it takes effort. We talked last time about the courage that it takes to forgive someone, and that the person, the offender, doesn't have to know that we were upset, and doesn't have to know that they're forgiven, doesn't have to know we even went through that process. So there's nothing stopping us from the act of forgiveness, whether or not we have access to our offender, which I think is really, really powerful stuff. So there's 3 levels of forgiveness, and the first is cognitive. So that's really that you make the decision to forgive, right? So you just decide that in order for you to be sane or well, perhaps in order for you to get over a hurt or a trauma, maybe it's in order for you to be able to be in the same space with the offender. Maybe it's someone in your family, maybe it's a partner, somebody that did something that really hurt your feelings, really got you to the core. You first have to make the decision to forgive. Some people, that's all they do, just the cognitive part of that forgiveness, and that's fine. But there's 3 different levels, and so you can do any of the levels or all of the levels, and so I wanted to share them with you. So the first one is that, just cognitive. You make a decision in your brain to forgive, and then you go through the steps in the forgiveness process. The second level of forgiveness is emotional. And I think this is where a lot of people find themselves, is that they really get to understand the offender or the background of the offender. They start to understand why somebody did what they did. They understand that offender struggles. They try to empathize with the offender and what that person could have been thinking or feeling, or what they perceive the outcome would be. And, part of the emotional level of forgiveness is around seeing that person as a human being. So I shared in the last video about how I had worked in loss prevention at Lowe's, and just about nothing at Lowe's is a true need. And so if somebody stole something from Lowe's, I didn't often feel all that guilty about stopping them and holding them accountable for that theft. But I told the story of a work partner, a loss prevention partner of mine, who had worked at a grocery store before he came to work in loss prevention at Lowe's. And he told me about a story of a middle-aged woman who had stolen a $3 bottle of cough syrup. And when she was apprehended, she explained that her child had been coughing for weeks, and she just wanted that child to have peace, and she was hoping that the child would get better, and she didn't have health insurance, and she couldn't afford to go to the doctor or take the child to the hospital. And so this was her just sort of last-ditch attempt, the only thing that she felt like she could do or knew to do to help her child feel better. And, he really struggled with making that apprehension, and wanted to be able to make it better for her, and, wish that there was more that he could do. And so for me, I see that very differently. I see this woman with her $3 bottle of cough syrup, presuming that she's telling the truth. She has a sick kid at home and she really can't afford it, and the kid is very, very ill and has been for a long time. I personally see that very differently from a gentleman that I remember stopping who stuck a drill down his pants. Now, he was intending to sell that drill for money to get drugs and alcohol. And so, you know, you can get into the humanity of addiction when you're working in loss prevention quite a bit. But I see that personally, my morals, my ethics, I see that through different lenses. And so in terms of forgiveness, it would be easier for me to emotionally forgive someone who did something out of a really humane place, or believing that they were being humane, trying to save someone's life or save an animal's life or make somebody's life better somehow. You know, that's a different scenario to me than, as I said, this situation for me where this gentleman was stealing tools to get drugs. Although I don't have children, I feel like I can empathize with a mom who has a really, really sick kid and is desperate for that child to feel better. The third level then of forgiveness is spiritual. And I know a lot of people who do this, right? They say they're going to turn it over to God. They're going to turn it over to whatever they believe in to handle the judgment of the offense, right? That they feel as human beings, and particularly as Christians, that it's not up to them to make a judgment, to hold a grudge, to not forgive someone who offended them. And so they choose to say, I'm gonna turn this over to God, to what I believe in, to handle this situation so that I can release it, so that I can let it go and I can move on with my life and my future. So as I said, you can choose to pursue forgiveness in any one of those areas, cognitive, emotional, or spiritual. And you could do 2 or 3 of them, right? You could make the decision cognitively that you're going to forgive someone. You could see them as a human in a really difficult, desperate situation and emotionally forgive them. And if you're someone who has a belief system that believes in forgiveness and in some other system, religion, being in charge of, as I said, that sort of judgment and that accountability, then I think it's entirely possible to pursue forgiveness in each of those areas. And remember, the point of forgiveness is to release it with no ties, to say, I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to stay stuck in the past. I'm going to forgive that person. I'm not going to forget what happened. I may have lost trust in them, but I can't stay bogged down in the offense. I can't keep thinking about ruminating on the offense. I can't keep thinking about why that person did that to me. I can't keep feeling victimized. It's time to move forward. It's time to move on. So I'd be interested to hear what you think about that. 3 levels of forgiveness: cognitive, emotional, and spiritual. And I hope you'll leave in the comments if you've ever forgiven anyone, or if you have ever sought forgiveness from anyone. And if you have forgiven anyone, which of these 3 did you choose? Did you pursue? Cognitive, emotional, spiritual? And how did that go for you? I will follow up with a couple more forgiveness videos. And then as a little teaser, I found this killer exercise related to the law of attraction and attracting more money to our lives. And so I'm going to totally do it. And then I'm going to share it with all of you because I think it sounds totally fun and I can't wait to try it. And it'll only take me a few minutes to do the exercise. And you know what? I'm at no now, one of my favorite phrases. So if it doesn't attract me more money, then it doesn't. No harm, no foul. It was fun to do the exercise. But if it does attract me more money, I'll be really darn glad that I spent those few minutes doing it. So I don't know if I'll do that tonight or another day this week, but keep your eyes peeled. It's a really, really cool, fun few-minute activity. And I would love to see us all do it and get to celebrate all of us having money coming in, you know, who knows, a few weeks or a few months. All right, well, hi, Jen. It's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you comment. Until I talk to you all later, check out the other videos, listen to the radio shows. If you have not listened to the 7 Levels of Intimacy radio show, you need to go check that one out. That was one of my faves. And I did one on vulnerability too that you might really like. So I love your feedback, even when you disagree, even if you tell me that it was crappy or whatever else you think. I would love to hear from you. I'm totally open to starting a conversation. And, you know, my friends will tell you I like a good debate. So have a good evening. I hope to hear from you soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.